Nigerian Bar Association (NBA) has strongly opposed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State and his suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The NBA, in a statement released on March 18, 2025 by its president, Mazi Afam Osigwe San, emphasized that the president lacks constitutional power to unilaterally remove elected officials under the guise of emergency rule. President Tinubu, in his national address, cited rising political tensions and recent acts of pipeline vandalism as justification for the emergency declaration. However, the NBA argues that such actions, while concerning, do not meet the constitutional threshold for suspending an elected government. The NBA pointed to Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, which governs the procedure for declaring a state of emergency. While this section grants the president emergency powers, it does not allow for the removal or suspension of elected officials. The NBA stressed that the only constitutional method for removing a governor or deputy governor is through impeachment, as outlined in Section 188. Furthermore, the removal of lawmakers must adhere to electoral laws and constitutional provisions. The NBA insisted that a state of emergency does not equate to an automatic dissolution of an elected government, and any attempt to do so is an overreach of executive power. The NBA also highlighted that Tinubu's emergency declaration requires approval from the National Assembly within 2 days if in session, or 10 days if not. Until such approval is granted, the declaration remains legally ineffective. Condemning the move as a dangerous affront to democracy, the NBA warned that allowing the suspension of elected officials under emergency rule could set a precedent for removing state governments based on political considerations. It urged the National Assembly to reject any attempt to ratify the unconstitutional suspension of Rivers State officials. The NBA called on all stakeholders, including the judiciary, civil society, and international observers, to monitor the situation closely. It reaffirmed its commitment to upholding Nigeria's democracy and urged the federal government to resolve political conflicts through constitutional and legal mechanisms, not executive orders. The association concluded by insisting that Nigeria's democracy must be protected at all costs, warning that any unconstitutional interference in state governance threatens the nation's democratic stability. Do you think, in line with everything we've been talking about as regards the state of emergency and the thought of, this press release by the NBA, and the fact that he didn't mention how this could create a precedent for other state governors who can equally be removed, due to political misunderstandings? Or what are your thoughts on this report?
Yes. You see, precedents are what the court follows to deliver its judgment. Like we cited earlier on the case of AG Plateau State against Guni in 2007. That's a judicial precedent. So the NBA is only cautioning the federal government not to set a dangerous precedent, because if this illegality, this constitutional infraction is allowed to stand, it becomes a dangerous precedent. Tomorrow, a president who understands the means and use of power can come in and just wake up one day, declare a state of emergency on a state governor that is not in tandem with what he's doing. So, our officials should always govern in line with the constitution and laws of the land, not with executive orders and proclamations that are unknown to our laws. That declaration yesterday by the president is unknown by the laws of Federal Republic of Nigeria. You cannot find it in the Constitution. You cannot find it in any act whatsoever that empowers the president to remove an elected governor. If that can be done, you are invariably saying the governor also has the powers, have the rights to remove an elected local government chairman. So, these laws are supreme and has binding force. on the president, the vice president, the senate president, the speaker, everybody, the governors, the House of Assembly members, reps members, senate, and we that they are leading. They have to lead us well, in line with the provisions of the Constitution. And I want to also say it here categorically that that declaration is not only unconstitutional and illegal, it is an infraction on the rights of the Rivers people. It is an infraction on the rights of the Rivers people. So,
but the president does think that he was doing it for, you know, for the sake of the Rivers people, for you know, for the benefit of the Rivers people, as it were.
That's why I said his body language may speak a different thing. He has good intentions to maintain law and order in Rivers State. But his powers, he overreached the use of his powers by adding the suspension of the governor and adding the suspension of elected officials. That is unconstitutional, illegal, and also an abuse of the rights of millions of Rivers people.